We'll get started in just a couple minutes. I'm giving people a chance to be led into the meeting. Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Stacey Adams. I'm a lead project manager at the South Florida Water Management District, and I'm the program manager for the Cooperative Funding Program. I'll be your moderator and host for today's webinar. This is the first of two informational webinars that we're going to be hosting for the FY23 DEP Alternative Water Supply Program funding opportunity. Our next webinar is going to be held on Wednesday, January 26th at 1:30. We're going to be covering the exact same information that we're covering this morning. Right now, we have about 20 people on the call. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on our CFP website. We're continuing to work in a hybrid environment, so during the presentation and question and answer session, you may hear background noises, so thank you for your understanding and patience. Upon completion of the presentation, I'll have further instructions on providing comments and or asking questions. Today, I'm going to be giving the overview of the FY23 DEP Alternative Water Supply Program and District Cost Share process. Governor DeSantis signed an executive order which requested recurring funding for alternative water supply development. And the governor and the legislature recognize the importance of these projects and protection of Florida's natural system. And they've allocated $40 million during the last 3 legislative sessions. So in 2020, DEP and the Water Management Districts worked together to develop an AWS guidance document, which would allow for a longer schedule in anticipation of this recurring annual AWS funding. The timeline also was changed to line up with other DEP grant opportunities and prior to the state's fiscal year start. So grant funding can be provided through one of 2 programs. The first was created in 2019, and it's the DEP AWS grant program. DEP reviews prioritized lists from all 5 water management districts, and then they allocate available funding that the legislature has provided. Applicants are eligible to receive up to 50% of eligible project costs. The second is the Water Protection and Sustainability Program that was created in fiscal year 2006, and it's defined in section 373.707. So per the statute, the South Florida Water Management District receives 30% of any allocated funding, and we have to match that dollar for dollar. Applicants through this program are eligible to receive up to 40% of eligible project costs. On our website, doing business with us and under cooperative funding, you'll find all of the relevant information that you would need. We also have an overall email address, coopfunding@sfwmd.gov, that you can send an email and it will notify all of us, and we will get back to you if you have any questions. So in anticipation of the fiscal year 23 AWS funding, we released an application on December 1st. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first of 2 of our webinars. The application will close on Tuesday, March 1st at 4 p.m. During March and April, an internal staff review process is going to be conducted. And in May, I'll be going back to the governing board for approval of the final project list and ultimate submittal to DEP by the May 31st deadline. Question we get asked a lot is who can apply. Basically, if you use water, you can apply. Any public or private entity can apply for funding. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to one of our staff members. So to be eligible for this program, you have to adhere to all application instructions, laws, and regulations. New this year, any local government must have an adopted ordinance that comports with the district's year-round irrigation rule. User groups that are not eligible for funding is any individual homeowner or single-family resident that wants to do some sort of project. We don't fund those. And if you are out of compliance with a DEP district permit, you will not be eligible for consideration. This is a reimbursement program. No one's guaranteed the full 40 or 50% funding. Applicants are responsible to move forward with a project with or without district or state funding. As a guideline, we've provided some dates, and those dates line with the district's fiscal year, which is October 1st of 2022 to September 30th of 2023. Those dates are subject to change based on legislative appropriations and agreements between DEP and the Water Management District. We have provided that start date to assist our applicants to determine if your project should be submitted. If you are not shovel ready and you don't think you can meet those dates, we would encourage you to wait to apply for the next funding cycle. Allowable costs are only for the project identified within the application and within the funding period. Some of our non-allowable costs include any expenses incurred before or after the funding period, regular O&M, pilot tests, permitting, design, etc. We do not allow in-kind services anymore. So as part of the DEP guidance document that I mentioned earlier, they requested that the districts provide a prioritized list of projects based on some of the following considerations: that they provide regional benefits if it supports an MFL water body. Additional benefits could be water quality, flood control, again, projects that need to be ready to go or shovel ready, and you've undergone a cost benefit analysis. Historically, the governing board priorities have considered that applicants must be within the district boundaries or have benefits to our district. It has to be an AWS or water conservation project. It is for construction or implementation costs only, which again means no O&M, design, permitting, etc. It should support the mission of the district or an approved regional water supply plan. We have prioritized projects based on regional or resource considerations, such as a restricted allocation area. For over a decade, the district's been encouraging water conservation through our district's year-round irrigation rule. So in November of 2020, the district's governing board approved including the irrigation ordinance status as an eligibility requirement beginning in fiscal year 23. During the November 2021 governing board meeting, this was discussed again, that during FY22, any local government who had an existing ordinance that was acceptable, they received bonus points during the review process, and no one was excluded from funding consideration. However, during this fiscal year 23 process, if you do not have an acceptable irrigation ordinance, you will not be considered for funding. It's a reminder, this is only for local governments, and it does not affect private entities. If you're not sure about your ordinance, you can reach out to one of our staff members for discussion. So I'm going to take a few minutes to just focus on the alternative water supply side of the program. So what is included in alternative water supply? These are for projects that increase water supplies through the development of non-traditional water sources. They can also include storage of those AWS sources. So non-traditional sources include brackish, saltwater, reclaimed, excess surface or stormwater, and any other source designated as non-traditional in a regional water supply plan. Reminder, O&M projects, even if they are for development of a non-traditional source, are not included for funding considerations. So district review considerations include, does the project support the goals and objectives of a regional water supply plan? Is it reducing dependence on traditional sources? Is it supporting ocean outfall legislation? And is it contributing to a resource-limited area? Those considerations, along with the DEP ones I outlined earlier, provide for the guidance for potential project funding. Previously stated, the grant program is for construction of AWS projects. So not all water supply construction projects are considered alternative water supply. So allowable AWS costs could include transmission lines for brackish or saltwater sources, reclaimed water transmission mains, pump stations and storage, reverse osmosis trains, and pumps and equipment, ASR wells, brackish water production wells, and concentrate or deep injection wells. So non-allowable costs. Not all AWS costs are allowable, so those include things like permitting, design, videos, as-built, etc. If you're constructing finished water projects, such as storage tanks or transmission lines, those are not included as part of this program. End-user connections, backup generators are also examples. We have more examples provided in the guidelines on our website. So AWS funding costs and considerations come down to the point made on the earlier slide, which is the program is for construction of projects that increase water supply by developing those non-traditional sources of water. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Rosina Scalone, who will review some of the highlights of the water conservation portion of our program.
Thank you, Stacy. So the water conservation component of the Cooperative funding program seeks to support projects that improve water use efficiency and conservation. Projects that use hardware or technology to increase water use efficiency are eligible for consideration. These projects can be in the form of a rebate program for residents and businesses managed by a sponsoring entity, such as a utility, a local government agency, or even a non-governmental organization. Projects can also target an individual property, a business, a farm or nursery, and utilities infrastructures. Some examples of projects that have been funded in the past are high-efficiency indoor fixtures or appliances retrofits, automatic flushing devices, irrigation retrofits or rebates, and agricultural or nursery irrigation efficiency improvements. Here, we list some of the elements that are considered in the review process, like water source being conserved, the quantity of water saved, quality and detail of project application. Is it a project that has environmental benefits and benefits the community? And one heavily considered item is the cost effectiveness, which is a measure of how much money is spent to save 1,000 gallons of water. Focusing on this allows the district to stretch its dollars and get the most bang for each buck, while driving the applicants to design their projects to be cost effective and efficient. Now we'll talk about the two biggest categories of water conservation projects, urban irrigation projects and agricultural. First, we'll discuss the urban conservation projects. These projects usually target devices and systems in existing properties, like indoor fixtures and water-using appliances, or irrigation controllers, sensors, spray bodies, and system audits. Water conservation projects in new construction can also be considered if the builder is working towards a Florida Water Star certification. You can learn more about Florida Water Star by visiting the website floridawaterstar.com. More examples for urban conservation projects include the installation of submeters, cooling tower water use efficiency upgrades, advanced meter analytics software, and online customer portals directly related to water conservation. Utilities are also encouraged to consider projects that will improve the efficiency of their operations. We are open to consider other types of technology or hardware that improve water use efficiency. Applicants should be aware that some projects are not eligible for funding. Some examples are indoor fixtures for new construction, unless part of a Florida Water Star certification program, like we mentioned before. Automatic meter reading infrastructure or hardware like antennas, relays, meters, or decoders are not funded. Waterless urinals or projects that target practices considered operations and maintenance. For the second category, we'll discuss agricultural and nursery projects. These can be divided in two groups. The first one includes projects that convert irrigation systems into more efficient ones, like taking a flood irrigation system and converting it to an overhead irrigation system. The other group includes projects that help improve irrigation management equipment, like installing weather stations, wireless telemetry, or soil moisture probes. Some other examples for agricultural projects are sprinkler head replacements for more efficient ones, pump system automation, variable frequency drive retrofits on existing pumps or wells. Other technology or hardware not listed here could be considered if they improve water use efficiency. Finally, here we can see some examples for agricultural projects that would not be eligible for funding. In general, projects that seek to install new irrigation systems or expand existing systems are not eligible. Neither are culverts or water control structures, replacing old emitters with new ones of the same efficiency or flow rating, new pumps, new filters, fertilization or disinfection hardware or materials, freeze protection materials, construction of tailwater ponds or reservoirs, or the installation of mainland pipes for surface water delivery. Well, that basically covers the basics of water conservation component of this cooperative funding program, but potential applicants are strongly encouraged to review the program guidelines to be sure their projects meet all applicable standards and requirements. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation back to Stacy so she can review the program's website.
Thanks, Rosina. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of our website. So if you go to our main sfwmd.gov/doing business with us and select grant funding opportunities, you're going to see all the information about the program with our schedule. And if you continue to scroll down the page, there's the additional information as far as if you need the link for, or if you need to know what the chapter is for the district's year-round irrigation rule, we've provided it so you can look it up. Again, the program closes on March 1st at 4 p.m. You're also going to find the guidelines, the applications, and examples, all of our contact information for the staff members on the call right now. Jim, Robert, and Rosina is available here as well. When you are ready to, you've downloaded your application, you've completed all the documents, and you're ready to upload, you're going to go to our online submission form, which we'll talk about in just a moment. If you're not on our list for future funding opportunities, we do have the paragraph above the staff contacts for you to subscribe. So you would click that link and subscribe. We will send out notifications when we are ready to close the application, as well as any future opportunities or if projects have been selected for funding. So when you go to the online submission form, you're going to go up above the guidelines document and click here, and it's going to open a new tab where you have to fill out all of these fields. If you are a consultant filling out an application for an entity, we highly recommend you put the entity's contact information on this form. Everybody is required to have a project lat long. And if you don't know your lat long, we have a little button you can click to type in the address, and then it will populate the lat long in decimal degrees. You do have to select if you're doing a water conservation or an AWS project under the project type, and at least one file has to be uploaded. If you are submitting an AWS application, it's going to be in Word, not PDF format. You can provide any other additional information you think is relevant to the application. I think we have a maximum of 5 individual files that you can upload. And for water conservation, it's going to be an Excel application. Again, Excel format, not PDF. I want to caution everybody, if you've applied in the past for funding and you have an old link bookmarked, that you do not use any old bookmarked links. This is the link you should be using. I did get an automatic reply that it appears someone tried to upload to an old link. So if you were on the call and you've already submitted an application, please know that that is not a valid submission, because you wouldn't have gotten a confirmation number, because we don't use those old bookmarked links. You need to be using the one that's on the website currently. So at this time, a few housekeeping items. If you're using Zoom and you want to ask a question, use the raise hand feature. If you're participating via phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand, and *6 will mute or unmute your line. If you have any questions, what I'm going to ask is you state your full name and your affiliation prior to providing any comments or questions. And with that, and if I butcher anybody's name, I am really sorry in advance. But the first person that I'm going to call on is Samuel. Do you want to unmute?
Good morning. Thank you very much for the presentation. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam Samakona, NMB Water. The question is, we are a municipality within Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County has an ordinance for the year in support of the year-round irrigation. Therefore, we as a city within the county do not have a year-round resolution. Based on the requirements of the grant, that means that we would have to, create a resolution in support of the county's ordinance. Is that correct?
Jim, feel free to correct me if I get anything incorrect. I've had some correspondence with Miami-Dade County that their ordinance, they're making changes to the ordinance that they have to comport with the district's year-round irrigation rule. And it's my understanding that they do not anticipate having that in place by March 1st.
Understood. If we, the city, create a resolution in support of the Southside Water Management District's year-round rule, we would have to wait for the county to begin enforcing it. And we would rather have the county enforce the districts instead of us enforcing a city ordinance. Would that disqualify us from applying now?
Sam, this is Jim Harmon. I think we should probably talk with you individually about this particular situation and how we could best resolve it. Because as Stacy had mentioned, Miami-Dade is in the process of updating their year-round irrigation ordinance, and it does include deferment of enforcement of that ordinance to local municipalities that may or may not have an ordinance. And I think we would just have to ascertain the exact status of what your individual municipality is doing or intends to do, and whether you would be eligible or not. So if we could discuss that particular incident offline, I think that'd be best.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. If you just want to send an email to Jim with your contact information, and you can CC me as well. We'll be happy to have that discussion. I don't see any other hands raised. Any other questions or anybody would like to ask? Okay, Sylvia, you want to unmute?
Hi, thank you so much for putting this event together. I'm pretty interested in a couple of different things to understand how to support the water management district. We have 3 different projects that we're interested in ushering forth. One is a way to perhaps syndicate or co-invest alongside the Florida Water Management District in some projects that might not meet funding goals, or if funding runs out for this next period. I don't know if that's something that can be considered. The other thing is several residents asked me to guide them on setting up an Everglades DAO based on 2012, 2013 legislation to see if there's anything that we could do to, originally, I think there was their funds set aside to buy back some conservation areas and land from some of the sugar mills along the Everglades that would affect the watershed. So I've asked if it's possible for perhaps us to set up a trust and then buy that land for conservation and perhaps donate it or put it into a trust or something and offer that up. And then the last point is we have also half the financing for sensor network to create a smart. We're doing a smart cities for sustainable cities net zero projects. So we also want to see if we can offer this network system and sensors to create an intermunicipal. I heard someone mention Miami-Dade County. So we're working with the county to create an intermunicipal alliance between the counties and the cities within Miami-Dade and in it and within it, as well as maybe then replicating that throughout Florida for more of the sort of water monitoring, quality monitoring, if that might be of service. So those are sort of three big topics, 3 sort of main topics and questions I had. Again, just to recap, one of them is what's the possibility of investing alongside the government as a private partner, say with the blue bond or something, if we want to support. 2 is, the possibility of buying some conservation land as a private sector, maybe even put it into the trust for the public benefit. And then the 3rd is, I think, maybe more alongside this application process, more straightforwardly in terms of sensor management systems and data and AI that can help meet the Paris Climate Accord and some of the resilience questions that have been passed down from the state for the different municipalities. Thanks for the time.
And who do you represent, Silvio?
Silvio, so I'm the founder of Logos Capital. I'm pretty active in public and private sector, so it's tough to say. I mean, I represent myself and a lot of the residents, but I'm on the board of the University of Miami's Masters of Sustainable Business program. I run an impact investment firm called Logos Capital. Our website is Logos Capital, Logos Capital.io. I'm also the chairman of the Logos Blue Foundation. The website's Logos Blue, Logos Blue.foundation. And then the company that would be doing the rollout of smart sensors and smart city networks for carbons to move towards net zero cities is called Sustain Cities. Hope that I know a bit of a complicated interweaving there, but yeah, we're definitely individually, involved in the different stakeholders of our communities.
Okay, so I'm going to address your first 2 questions. This program does not allow for the co-funding with a private firm and the government because this is legislative appropriations. So if you wanted to do something like that, I would have to direct you to DEP in the legislature to see if there was some sort of partnership or something that could be done, but that would be done at that level, not at the district's level.
Uh-huh.
The second question is, no, we do not. This program does not allow for the buying of land. There were other programs that DEP in the legislature support for buying property, but this particular funding program does not support land purchases. For the third topic question that you had, I would need to better understand, and so would staff, about what exactly you're going to be doing and how you're going to structure a potential project, and if you have those project partners. In the past, we've had vendors who've applied for funding, but they haven't actually had any partnership agreements established to do a conservation type program. So we can talk offline if you would like to shoot me an email with your contact information. I'll be happy to have that discussion offline with you.
Thank you very much, Stacey.
All right, thank you. Next question we have is from Roxana. Do you want to unmute yourself? Okay, I guess you don't have a question. Oh, okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, I wrongly raised my hand. I don't have any question actually.
Yes, you had your hand raised. Thank you. Do we have any other? I'm going to give one last chance for anybody to ask questions. Sam.
Thank you. My final question is specific on funding. Once we're able to apply, can we match other state grant agencies' grant funds? For instance, specifically the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Can we use their grant funds to match the South Florida Water Management District's grant portion?
I am not sure what the restrictions are on that state funding. That would be something that you would need to, if you already have that funding in place. Typically with our grant program, it is a 50-50, up to a 50-50 cost match. And usually we have had other funding that's been used to match some of the money in the past. But again, it's really specific to what restrictions are already in place with that other funding you have, if it can be used as a match for this program.
Perfect, perfect. That's good news. So there's no specific restrictions from your side?
No, there are only certain ones that I'm aware of, and that's not one I'm familiar with.
Excellent. The DEO, the Department of Economic Opportunity. That's great. Thank you very much. No further questions from me.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Sam. Any other questions that anybody has at this time? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today and the speakers. As a reminder, this is being recorded and it will be posted on our CFP website. So thank you, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.